Solana's price action has been seeing some reasonable volatility over the last few days, and in today's video I'm going to be breaking down what I think is likely to happen next with the Solana price action. As I get into today's video, if you do find it useful and informative, smash that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you're new, subscribe, and let's jump right down into the charts. So as you can kind of see here, this is Solana paired up with USDT. We're on the 1 hour chart here, and while things are looking very interesting, but for the most part we expect to see more volatility when it comes to the smaller time frame that is the 1 hour time frame. But if we take a look at this in some detail, we can actually see that the stochastic RSI is actually in a pretty reasonable position. So the volatility, I'm not talking about more room to the downside. I'm actually thinking that Solana's gearing up for a bit of a rally and maybe potentially even a breakout. Okay, so some interesting stuff. Let's roll this up into the daily and start paying attention to those bigger macro positions, because we were kind of really interested in seeing whether or not Solana's going to push down on a kind of longer time frame for that $93 to $107 range. Okay, now it's possible that of course we haven't yet finished with the correction, so we want to be mindful that Solana's price action in itself is kind of wedged on the daily time frame between the 200 EMA and the 50 EMA 50 SMA. So although on the smaller time frames I'm looking for a breakout, and I'm thinking that we're going to see some significant price action to the upside. If we come back to that 1 hour time frame for a second here, you can kind of see how this is gearing up. We have this correction coming down, and we're finding this really interesting area of support for Solana right in this little range here. Okay, this is coming in between 140.33 and 142.16. This area has been previously defined. If we lose this area, the next range where I think we're going to find some form of support for Solana's price is going to be a lot lower, heading more towards 137.61 to 138.89. So we'll be mindful over everything that's kind of gone on with this previous area of support that's being retested at the moment. Lose that, we go down. If we can hold this, we can look for the break to the upside. Okay, we were of course looking at these previous areas, these higher ranges, for Solana to be the major resistances at 149 to 152. Okay, so on the smaller time frames, expecting volatility is kind of key here. Okay, we want to hold support and we want a break to the upside. Now on the daily time frame, support could be found because we are finding that the 200-day EMA is a key support area, and it falls right in line with that range between $140 and $142, right where we're kind of consolidating on right now. Okay, so we want to be mindful that there was a huge wick to the upside yesterday, tapping into our range here that we were talking about $148 to $149 in previous videos, and we are right back into these consolidated ranges. Okay, so resistance is on the 50 EMA, which is sat at 151. Support is basically on the 200 EMA on the daily chart, 139. And so if we wanted to trade this, how are we going to do it? Well, we can see that we have got this idea of a move to the downside, but I don't think that B wave is done just yet. So on a macro scale, we are actually looking for a bit of a run to the upside before we get into these lows of a 93 to $107, right? That's a much further down the road kind of scenario, but I do think it is something that is likely to occur. So we want to be very mindful that ultimately what I'm looking for is a breakout situation, not a breakdown situation. And where we sit ourselves right now on the daily time frame presents itself with a long opportunity. We could go long here with the stop loss lower than the previous swing low, and we can target some profit up at that previous area of resistance. I think we have a strong shot at going for $170, and so I would put my take profit there. That's a risk reward ratio of about 3.98, and that essentially means that for every $1 of risk, I'm going to be earning back $3.98. So some huge potential with a bit of a break to the upside. Our stochastic RSI potentially can support this on the smaller time frames, not so much on the larger time frame just yet, because I do think that if we see this, it's going to basically rapidly take us to the overbought range, and that is how we kind of end up in these lower ranges overall. So on the daily time frame, very interesting stuff going on. We take a look at the relative strength index if we don't like the stochastic RSI. Stochastic RSI, by the way, guys, is really sensitive to price movements, whereas the relative strength index, the RSI, is not as sensitive. So we use the RSI for trends, and we use the stochastic RSI for trading in and out of positions. So here we can see that the relative strength index is, still under the 50 level. It's bearish positioning, and so we can still see momentum shifting to the downside, meaning that we do have the idea of this trend. I say a trend, it's not nearly a wave theory trend, again, but this idea of a move to the downside where we can complete this structure at that $100 range. Okay, so that's kind of being supported on a macro scale. But before we get there, I still think there's room to the upside. I still think we have the ability to kind of go long. $170, I think, would be a pretty fair area. If we use Elliott Wave theory to try to be predictive on it, it will probably tell us it's going to be higher than that. Yeah, we could potentially see $200 from an Elliott Wave theory perspective. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we're going to come up to resistance right up here. Smart money concepts, another way of looking at the market. Coming in here, we can see that we have a weak high, so we're still in bullish territory. We have strong low, not likely to get broken. So if we do come down here, it'll be a wick in my opinion. So smart money concepts, Elliott Wave theory, they're kind of saying two different things, but it'll be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. So smart money concepts is being more bullish on the market on Solana. I am thinking Elliott Wave theory is actually more bearish. Time will tell as to which one of those is correct. So we have a little bit of an odds difference there. But what we can see is that we are wedged in on equilibrium right here, right? That is right in line with the 50 EMA, the 50 SMA, an area of resistance is also equilibrium. So if we can get a closed position above the 50 EMA, 50 SMA, above the equilibrium on the daily chart, then that's going to signal this bigger bullish movement to the upside. But I do think that this area of resistance right up here, $170, is likely to be the area of previous consolidation, previous areas of resistance turning to resistance once again. And so I'll be very mindful over that. If we can get a break above those and we can get a new daily higher high, well, that changes things obviously. But for now, I'm still looking at this as a bump to the upside, collapse to the downside, hitting $100, great accumulation, rally in a massive, massive way. Okay, but it's going to take a very long time to play out. This is months probably in the way making, considering everything so far has taken from March 2024 to where we are, and we're still inside this structure. So we could see this kind of playing out a little bit longer. I don't think we're done just yet. So yeah, expect more volatility for Solana on the daily time frame. Okay, it's going to take a while before we kind of get there. So that's the daily. If we roll this up into a weekly, here we can see the more bullish case. Okay, nothing much has changed since we last spoke about this. We are still in this kind of idea of a bullish flag scenario. We are looking for that low around $90. Potentially if that's higher, this would change the analysis. We are of course thinking that the price action is going to be moving up more towards the 618, 702 and 786 Fibonacci levels. This is driven from basically repeating the 5-wave pattern that we saw. So this is going to be an interesting area where I do think we're likely to find resistance. 0.618 is an area in price action that basically price action likes to get rejected from, or it's an emotional area for many investors, so they like to take profit on it. The same with the 702, but that's less typical. That's something that's noticed specifically within crypto. The 702 is an area that Bitcoin seems to like to get rejected or find support on, and the 786 is another typical area that investors and traders like to kind of take profit on. So this whole area between $688 and $1,200 is the range where I think we can see Solana potentially going to in that kind of 2025 peak bull market highs. Outside of that, there's the potential long shot for towards 2,400 to 5,200. Again, this will require significant amount more demand, maybe something from an ETF that could drive that. But for now, as you can kind of see, everything for Solana is looking actually very, very nice. We're looking at this market through a very bullish lens on the macro scale, although a bit bearish on the smaller time frames and the daily time frames. But for the most part, everything is kind of playing out as we were kind of expecting it to. So yeah, I guess the message, as I've been saying time and time again, is expect volatility, expect the market to do the unexpected. But ultimately, the bigger macro picture remains very much intact. 2025 should be a fantastic year for Solana. And you guys can let me know what your thoughts are on all of that in the comments down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. And if you haven't done so yet, check out my second channel just up here where I go through the Cardano technical analysis every single day.